to us.
So, gusto mo talagang patagalin itong usapan na to?
Pinaliwanag ko lang, pinaliwanag ko lang ho, sir. Pinaliwanag ko lang ho.
Okay, okay.
However, yung sa sinasabi lang po ni Senator Marcoleta, una-una po liliwanagin ko, hindi po ako nag-i-impose ng conditions na ilalagay sa Memorandum of Agreement. It is an agreement between the Secretary of Justice representing the WPSB and the applicant. Now, as to whether or not restitution will be included there will depend on the evaluation of whatever statements will be submitted to us.
So, gusto mo talagang patagalin itong usapan na to?
Pinaliwanag ko lang, pinaliwanag ko lang ho, sir. Pinaliwanag ko lang ho.
Okay, okay.
Your Honor, okay lang po ba? Bago ko po ituloy itong kay Kong Roman Romulo, baka po pwedeng magtanong ako kung kumustahin ko sana yung status po namin sa WPP kasi
That's beside the point. You have to settle that with the DOJ, not with the Blue Ribbon.
okay lang po. Tanongin ko lang po sandali ang abogado ko.
Sige. PG, Fadullon.
Mr. Chair, when we return to Mr. Disaya, I'd also like to ask. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apo.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I believe that it's a matter that should also be known by the committee because Mr. Disaya is asking for the status of their application. For the past 2 months and a half, we have not heard from Mr. and Mrs. Disaya. They have not gone back to the department. There has been no coordination made by by the couple, either by their lawyer. The last thing that we heard from them was when they declared that they will no longer be cooperating with the ICI. Since then, we have not had the opportunity to talk to them. So there can be no evaluation that can be done by the Witness Protection Program absent any disclosures coming from the couple, Mr. Chair.
Does that answer your question?
Your Honor, kasi nung mga nakaraan po, ilang beses din po kaming bumalik po sa DOJ po. Kaya lang wala pa po pong pinapakita sa amin po na MOA.
Anong kasimple yan, may proseso sila dyan. Anyway, PG, Fadullon.
I think it should be explained to the couple, sir, that there is no such thing as an ex-deal here where they will provide us with documents and then we will immediately, or the Witness Protection Program will immediately give them a memorandum of agreement.
In other words, hindi kaliwaan.
Hindi po kaliwaan yan. Because precisely, the reason why these affidavits will have to be submitted first is for us to evaluate and determine whether the same is compliant with the requirements of the WPSB law. And second, if it can be corroborated by other pieces of evidence. A simple statement telling us or naming 100 names will not make any difference unless the same can be substantiated. And thus far, we have not seen any. And therefore, there can be no evaluation that can be made or be given by the Witness Protection Program, sir.
My advice to you, Mr. Disaya, sumugal kayo ng konti. Wala yung hindi pwedeng siguruhan. Lahat yan susugal. Kasi once na ma-admit kayo, wala pa rin kasiguruhan na tuloy-tuloy kayo may immunity. May mga sinusunod nilang requirements eh. Yung absolute necessity ng inyong testimony, mga corroborate ng independent evidence, of course, not the most guilty, and so forth and so on.
Chair?
Yes, Senator.
Prosecutor Fadullon, ang pagkakaalam ko, kasi I was then the chairman noong nagpasya sila ng back-over ng WPP at sa akin namang palagay based on the law, kailangan silang ma-process sapagkat nagpasya sila na gustong magpa-cover. Ang problema kasi at that time, the then Secretary of Justice made an opinion that the Disaya should first make restitution. Kaya doon po yata na-stall yun eh. Considering that restitution is not even one of the requirements para ma-process. Kasi nag-a-apply pa lang sila eh. I was trying to explain then, Mr. Chair, na in the process of the application of the Disayas, restitution is not one of the requisites. Kaya lang, pinipilit ni then Secretary Remulla, now Ombudsman, na magre-restitute sila. So, doon yata na-stall ang pinag-uusapan. Ngayon, ang pagkakaalam ko rin po, Mr. Chair, si Yusek Bernardo, parang he was already granted provisional Anong tawag doon?
Provisional admission, Mr. Chair.
So, if he was granted already provisional admission, was he required to restitute anything?
Sir, that is covered by the memorandum of agreement and is confidential. I cannot make that disclosure without any clearance from the Secretary of Justice.
Why?
Because the law provides for it, sir, that confidentiality is a matter which is stressed in Section 7 of the law.
So, Mr. Chair, ito na naman ang problema eh. Para malaman naman ng kahit sinong gustong mag-apply, kung ano ba requirements talaga. Was that restitution requirement covered by that? Yun lang naman eh. There's nothing secret in that. Ba't hindi mo sabihin?
Sir, it is contained in the memorandum of agreement.
Like nobody should know that a restitution was required by the Department of Justice?
The details of the memorandum of
I'm not
agreement...
asking for details. Sabihin mo lang, was it made a requirement?
Restitution is part of the details, sir, which is provided for in any memorandum of agreement if you're going to ask me. So if it is going
Bago
to
siya
be there-
makapag-apply, restitution will be required.
Not necessarily, sir.
O, eh,
Not
paano?
necessarily.
Ito kailangan sabihin ko, palagi kasing sinasabi ng mga ibang tao, I am trying to defend the Disayas. No, I am trying to maintain what the law says and provides. Dahil alam ko na wala namang sinasabing restitution, gusto naman nilang magpa-cover para sa ganun, may protection naman sila because they are aiding the state to prosecute kung sino-sino may kasalanan dito. Bakit hindi natin i-apply ang batas? Ngayon, sinasabi mo na naman, tinatanong ko lang, if restitution applied to Yusek Bernardo, he was granted already provisional admission. Ba't hindi mo maibigay man lang yun? There is nothing secret in that. Otherwise, pero meron kayong paborito, merong hindi. Parang namimili kayo. It is a selective process.
May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Yes, you may respond.
Again, we take exception to the statement of the good senator that we are being selective. The process of application...
Yun ang ginagawa
no, the process
mo
of
You're
application,
making a
sir...
selective application of the law. Sinasabi natin, walang requirement ng restitution. Will you agree?
I agree, sir. It is
Oh.
not explicitly stated in the law. It is not explicitly stated in the law, but...
It is not explicitly stated in the law, but you're requiring them to restitute.
No, sir. Let me just explain, if you will allow me to finish. There is
What-
no
what?
explicit provision in the law calling for restitution. However, there is a memorandum of agreement whereby terms and conditions can be stated therein. And if there is agreement as to restitution,
Alam mo, yung
the same can
memorandum
be
of
included.
agreement, hindi siya kasamang restitution. Yung pagka siya ay na-admit na as state witness, kaya mo lamang siya lalagyan ng memorandum so that he can cooperate with the DOJ in prosecuting this case.
Precisely,
Huwag mong
sir.
iisipin na i-include mo yun doon sa memorandum. You are deviating from the law itself.
There is no deviation, sir.
Sabihin mo sa akin kung anong provision that the memorandum will require restitution.
There is nothing in the law, again, which states
Ito
that...
yung problema ninyo eh. Palagi kayong ganyan kung makipag...
No, sir, we're being very candid with the
and then sasabihin nyo
committee.
take exception. Kayo ang nagte-take exception. Pati batas eh, binabago ninyo.
No, sir. If the Disaya couple would want to be admitted, all they had to do is go through the same process. But it's not a matter only of...
Pumunta na sila.
Yes, sir. But they have not...
Alam mo, si Secretary Boying Rimulya ang nandito. Nag-uusap pa sila dito. Okay? Sabi niya sa mag-asawa, Mr. Disaya, sige, bukas na bukas, isama mo yung asawa mo, magkikita tayo sa dinner. Nandito pumunta siya rito. Kaya ang palagay ko noon, ipo-process. Processing lang naman. If they will not qualify, okay lang sa akin yun. But, hindi nga sila natuloy sa process because they were required. Restitution. Kaya ang nakikita ko dito, merong blocking. Di ba? Napakasimple na pinag-uusapan natin, Prosecutor Fadullon. Huwag na nating i-complicate ito. We apply this law to everybody. Kaya tinatanong ko lang, okay lang naman kung qualified si Yusek Bernardo. I have nothing against Yusek Bernardo. Okay lang. Tinatanong ko lang, para yung application ng batas, parehas lang. So, halimbawa, kung wala namang restitution si Yusek Bernardo, why will you apply restitution to these people?
Sir, we did not... That was a statement made by former Secretary Rimulya. When they were referred to Department of Justice for processing, it was because there was a legislative inquiry which was going on, and the Disaya couple, during the time that they were testifying, stated that they wanted to be provided security and protection. Immediately after they went to the department, said security and protection was provided to them without any consideration yet as to their application into the program. The evaluation for purposes of being considered in the program is a different process which has not been completed. That is the reason why they have not yet been considered as possible state witnesses in the
It
cases
was
which are
never
pending.
completed because you were insisting on restitution. Drop it. Para sa ganun, kung mag-a-apply sila at kung qualified sila, pagbigyan ninyo. Yun lang ang ano dyan.
No, sir. Again, let me disabuse the mind of the good senator. There is no requirement that for purposes of processing, they will have to go through or they will have to make restitution.
Yun nga
Because it will
sinabi ni
still go
Boying
through
Rimulya.
evaluation.
Sinasabi ko sa iyo, yun ang sinabi niya sa press conference niya. Sinabi niya yun eh. Alam mo, mag-a-apply lang eh, sinasabi ko. Kung ang restitution mangyayari at the end of, let's say, napakita talaga na meron silang pananagutan sa batas, later on, restitution is talagang kailangan. Pero nag-a-apply lang yung tao eh. Kaya nga, Witness Protection and Benefit Program. There is no reason to burden these people for another requisite which is not even in the law. So, kung qualified sila, i-process natin. Kung nag-qualify, salamat. Kung hindi sila nag-qualify, wala tayong magagawa.
Mr. Chair, it is not as if the reason why they are not being processed is because of the restitution that you mentioned. The fact is...
Prosek, ang sinasabi ko, hindi, yun ang naging unang dahilan kasi kaya siguro nabanggel ito. Maraming procedures dyan. Kaya lang, ang sinasabi ko, ang pinipilit kong ipaintindi sa'yo ay yun doon pa lang doon pa lang na-stop na eh, sapagkat pinilit ni Secretary Boying, mag-restitute ka muna. Eh sabi ko, nawala na.
Mr. Chair, kung ang gagustuhan po ng Disaya couple is makonsider sila o ma-process sila, let's take away the aspect of restitution. But they have to comply first with the requirements, which is the submission of the affidavits to justify the department being able to evaluate the same. Let's not talk about restitution.
Tapos na. Okay na yun. So wala nang restitution. Mr. Disaya, Ms. Disaya, kung talagang gusto nyo at kung gusto nyo mag-apply talaga, ayun, wala nang restitution, pero kailangan mag-qualify kayo. Kung hindi kayo qualified, wala tayong magagawa.
Mr. Chair, may I interject?
The Vice Chairman is recognized.
I just want to be clarified, PG Fadullon. Ano ba talagang gusto ng DOJ to be mabigyan ng restitution immediately? Kasi may sinasabi ni Senator Marcoleta, there will be a process. What is your stand here?
Sir, my position is this, if I may. Restitution, Senator Marcoleta is correct when he pointed out that restitution is not a requirement under the WPSB law.
Okay.
It is, as I said, it is not explicitly stated there. However, when the process of when the witness who applies to be admitted into the program is evaluated, and for example they qualify, their qualification is now subject of a memorandum of agreement between the department represented by the secretary and the applicant. Now, in the memorandum of agreement, there are terms and conditions that may be agreed upon or imposed by the parties, and restitution is part of them. If I may be allowed to explain further, kung halimbawa po meron po tayong witness na nag-a-apply sa programa at sinasabi na nila, I am remorseful, ako po ay nagkamali, ako po ay nakakatanggap ng pera na galing sa NAKAU hindi sa matamang paraan, at ito po ay sosoli ko, sasabihin po ba ng department, hindi naman kasi part ang restitution dito, so hindi mo kailangan magsoli. Kaya po yan inilalagay sa memorandum of agreement kung meron man, para lamang po masiguro din ng department na at least kung meron pong ill-gotten wealth or if a person is unjustly enriched, monies will be returned back to the coffers of government. Remember, sir, if one is covered under the program, one of the results would be if there is a case where they will be testifying as a witness, they will not be included in the information anymore. And if they're not included in the information, it means they have no criminal liability and forfeiture will not lie as against them. A process which will happen much later.
Okay, so Republic Act 6981, PG Fadullon, Section 5, it states na to comply with legal obligations plus to cooperate with respect to all reasonable requests. Ang tanong ko po ngayon, ano ba ang mga unreasonable sa pagbabalik na ninakaw na yaman? Can you give me some?
Let me just be clarified, Mr. Chair. Ano po ang ano ang reasonable kung magbabalik po?
Kasi ang sabi, legal obligations, reasonable requests. So it's a reasonable request. Pero it doesn't mean to say na you are, it's their obligation. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. Kasi po, kasama po yan dun sa pagpapakita po ng pagsisisi ng kung sino man pong aplikante na sinasabi niya, kung ako po ay may nakuhang yaman sa pamamaraan na hindi po legal, at ako po ay humihingi ng kapatawaran, at ako po ay willing na tumistigo, at isosoli ko po. Natural po, ipapalagay po natin yan sa loob ng Memorandum of Agreement, at yan po ay mapupunta sa gobyerno.
Kaya po, ang tanong ko po ngayon sa PG Fadullon is that reasonable ba o unreasonable ang pagbabalik ng pera na kinuha sa taong bayan? Which is which?
It is definitely not unreasonable. I would say it is only reasonable and within reason to return the same.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hypothetical, halimbawa, nag-apply yung couple, Disaya couple. Sinabi nila, halimbawa, papasok sila sa MOA. Okay, ito po yung aking mga account numbers, ito yung bangko. Willing po akong i-waive kung magkano man ang laman nitong account number na ito. Tama po ba yung hypothetical situation na ganon?
That would be one correct means, Mr. Chair.
Or halimbawa, ito po yung estimate ko na kinita ko sa aming pagkokontrata na merong ghost project. Nag-estimate siya. Nagbigay siya sila ng estimated amount na sa tingin ninyo acceptable kasi yun ang base rin sa reasonable na computation. Kasama rin yung sa MOA.
That will also be included in the MOA,
So
sir.
hindi immediate na
Hindi po
pagpasok nila, babayad na kagad sila. Parang extortion yun.
Yes, sir. Hindi po immediate kasi mangyayari niyan is parang you paid your way to be able to be admitted.
Parang you buy your
Yes,
way
sir.
in to the
Yes, sir.
program.
Ito po, it's a
So
necessary...
merong miscommunication.
Yes, sir.
Wala nga sa batas ang restitution, pero it could come later.
Yes, sir.
Parang as a pledge, as a commitment.
Yes, sir. That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, ikaw na nga nagsabi, Prosec, it is not in the law. Okay. Gagawa ka ng paraan para i-circumvent mo yon, papasukan mo doon sa memorandum. Reasonably ba yung maglalagay ka ng isang bagay that was not even provided as a requirement? Alam mo, as a lawyer, sinasabi natin palagi, the spring cannot rise higher than its source. Ano yung source? The law itself, di ba? Bakit ka ngayong gagawa to circumvent it para lang ipakita mo? Alam mo, you'll be abusing. That is grave abuse of discretion. Hindi mo nga alam, magkano isosoli nila, for example. Alam mo ba kung paano isosoli? Doon lang sa solian, doon lang magkakaroon na ng corruption dito. What was not given to you by the law, you cannot have it. Dito tayo nagkakaproblema, Mr. Che. Kaya, ang pinag-uusapan lang, these people, gusto nilang tulungan ang Estado. We're not, hindi man hidden wealth pinag-uusapan
Mrs.
dito.
Disaya wants to say something. Can we allow her? Pwede natin magsalita ka muna.
Yes po. I-confirm ko lang po kasi with what attorney Fadullon said na meron kaming we were given temporary security. Definitely we weren't kasi I had to get our own security for me and my kids after the session here where we mentioned the 17 congressmen. So hindi po kami nabigyan ng DOJ ng any security whatsoever. And then yung sinasabi na hindi kami nakikipag-cooperate. Actually, the affidavits that they were requesting were prepared and we were ready to give it to DOJ. Pero kasi we were required to restitute first. So hindi namin
You were required to restitute.
Oo,
How much?
Wala silang sinabi na amount. So hindi namin alam kung ano yung restitution.
Baka stipulation lang.
Oo. So it was one of the one of the stipulations
PG,
that
baka stipulation lang
was
yun,
asked of us.
Mr. Chair, I am not privy because I am not part of the ones who've been talking
Yes.
to and communicating
Yes po,
with the
opo.
Disaya couple. So I will have to validate that information, Mr. Chair, as to whether or not
So-
restitution was made a condition
Maybe you can renew your application.
Actually, hindi din
Puntahan nyo
kami...
na lang si PG Fadullon.
Opo, hindi na po kami, we are 100% trying to cooperate with whatever is asked of us. So when Mr. Disaya was let out for a half day to do the ledger, nagpasa po kami ng ledger ni Yusek Bernardo noon day din na yon, pero hindi din pinansin. It parang sinabi sa amin, the case will go on
Okay,
even without
para
the
lang kasi
ledgers.
490 na, no? Sabihin yung lawyer ninyo, mag-coordinate sa DOJ. Andito yung director ng WPP. Kung makipag-ugnayan, para hindi tayo dito nagba-back and forth. Hindi tayo matatapos eh. Kasi I think there's a lot of miscommunication eh. No, iba yung interpretation, iba yung interpretation.
Yes,
So,
Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Disaya,
Mr.
you're
Chair.
about to...
Yes, salamat Mr. Chair. Since sinabi ni Ms. Disaya na gusto nilang mag-cooperate 100% sa mga investigasyong ito, just to make of record explicitly, bukod po sa sinubmit na nilang mga proyekto ng Alpha and Omega 2016 to 2022, iniintay pa po ng komite yung mga proyekto 2016 to 22 ng St. Gerard, St. Timothy, Amethyst Horizon, St. Matthew, Great Pacific Builders, at Elite General Contractors. Plus po, yung mga joint venture agreement projects ng mga Disaya taong 2016 hanggang 2022 din, Mr. Chairman. Salamat po.
Thank you.
So, salamat Mr. Chair, at siguro baka magkakaroon ng panibagong pag-asa yung mag-asawa na ito. Pero Prosec Fadullon, huwag mo nang ipipilit yung restitution na ilalagay mo sa memorandum. Mali yun. Para matuloy. Kasi nag-a-apply lang naman eh. Baka naman, ang totoo niyan, kahit Mr. Chair, kung...
Actually, hindi outright yung restitution. Parang pledge yan eh. Parang willing kami mag-restitute. Parang ganun lang. Hindi outright kasi pagka-outright, parang extortion yun.
Hindi, maski na yung pledge eh. Wag na muna nating ilalagay kasi parang nababahiran ng ano eh. Unang-una, hindi nga natin alam, magkano ba yung re-restitute? Sino bang magkukwenta? Sino magtatago nito while nandyan yan? Paano kung halimbawa, hindi naman na kumpleto, hindi sila nag-qualify? O kung nag-qualify man lang sila as state witness, later on, nagkaroon nga sila ng konting sablay, pwede rin naman silang i-discharge as state witness. What happens to the restitution? Kaya para wala kayong sagutin, wag nyo nang ipipilit yun, wala kasi sa batas yun.
Okay. I would suggest
Thank
that
you,
the lawyer
Mr.
of the Disaya couple will just coordinate with the DOJ.
Okay.
Settled? Para mag-renew yung application. Yeah, thank you very much. So, meron pa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. PG, you want to say something pa?
Sir, ulitin ko lang po, yung pagpasok ko kasi sa pag-apply sa program is voluntary. That's why we cannot coerce or force anybody who wants to be admitted. However, yung sa sinasabi lang po ni Senator Marcoleta, unang-una po liliwanagin ko, hindi po ako nag-i-impose ng conditions na ilalagay sa Memorandum of Agreement. It is an agreement between the Secretary of Justice representing the WPSB and the applicant. Now, as to whether or not restitution will be included there will depend on the evaluation of whatever statements will be submitted to us.
So, gusto mo talagang patagalin itong usapan na to?
Pinaliwanag ko lang,
Tama na.
pinaliwanag ko lang ho, sir.
Okay.
Pinaliwanag ko lang ho.
Okay.
So, members, would you like them to continue reading yung ledger, the contents? Sige. Continue, Mr. Disaya.